So if you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So 67%, I think you can, for the most part, see it. Those with good eyes, with bad eyes. We didn't want to bring, it's very windy out here. We didn't want to bring out the big charts because it had no chance of standing. Fortunately, we came armed with a little smaller chart. So 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset? They will be, because we never charge anybody anything. But now we're going to charge. European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders. You think of European Union, very friendly. They rip us off. It's so sad to see. It's so pathetic. 39%, we're going to charge them 20%, so we're charging them essentially half. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people. They like me, I like them. The problem is they charge us 90%. We're going to charge them 46% tariff. Taiwan, where they took all of our computer chips and semiconductors. We used to be the king, right? We were everything. We had all of it. Now we have almost none of it, except the biggest company is coming in. We're going to end up with almost 40%. Lee Zeldin's working to get their approvals. And it's an amazing company. Mr. Wei, of one of the great companies of the world, actually. They're coming in from Taiwan, and they're going to build one of the biggest plants in the world, maybe the biggest for that. But 64%, we're going to charge them 32%. Japan, very, very tough, great people. And again, I don't blame the people for doing it. I think they're very smart in doing it. I blame the people that sat right in that Oval Office, right over there, right behind the Resolute desk or whichever desk they chose.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed are greater than the legal services provided by other lawyers. I'm Harry Steele. You found the Heart of Dixie podcast, number 4, Church Meets State. I'm an attorney in private practice down in Daphne, Alabama, and today I'm joined by Brandon Mosley, reporter and content manager at the Alabama Gazette. How are you today, Brandon?
I'm doing fine, Harry. How are you?
Good, and we have a special guest today, Representative Mark Gidley, Alabama House 29, Republican from Hokes Bluff. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir. That's where I live, and but I'm privileged to serve the eastern part of Etowah and northwest part of Calhoun County. So great to serve the people of the great District 29 up here in Etowah and Calhoun County.
Right. Okay. So I think I've got your district map. Am I right about that? Yeah, 29. We can see it right there.
That's correct. Yes.
And so I thought there wasn't anything about you being a pastor on your Wikipedia page, but I understand that you used to be in the insurance business, and then you became a full-time pastor over in Glencoe. Is that right?
That is correct, Harry. Yes, it is.
And so anyway, here's your wiki page, and so here's a little something that a lot of people probably don't know. Hokes Bluff was cursed under the breath of everyone who was interested in baseball for a couple of decades. It
kind of ruled the area in baseball. Sure did. We had a great run on that several years ago. That's kind of our big claim to fame is the baseball program that was here at Hokes Bluff, Alabama. Yes,
absolutely. So anyway, hilariously, I used to be a member of the Gadsden Country Club, and I was actually the chief executive officer for Etowah County up until, what day was this? November 10th, 2005. So about 20 years ago, they trimmed me out of the workforce up there. So anyway, I'm very familiar with that area. I know. Let me think. Is Tim Choate still on the county commission, or did he finally?
No, he's not on. He's not. But I know Tim very well. He served a long time. Yeah.
And then, of course, Will Clay was one of my commissioners, and he is one of our circuit judges up there. One of the first Republicans in Etowah County.
Right, and you're right, exactly.
So our topics of discussion for today, and I don't usually read these off. I just put them up there so people can decide if they want to fast forward to other sections or not. But I thought we would talk about the bills that you have sponsored. This is according to what I found on the internet. So,
Right.
please correct us if we're wrong about any of this. But any one of these particular bills that you think is something that you'd like for, people to know that you sponsored and
Sure.
you're working on?
Yeah. Right. I'd be extremely excited about sharing some of the things that I've worked on and sponsored, and possibly even some that I've co-sponsored. Well, let me give you the ones that I have in particular, Harry, have sponsored. First of all, I serve on the Military and Veterans Committee in the Alabama House. There's 3 committees that I serve on. That's the first one. I'll talk about it first. Each year, for the last several years, we have done military packages where we have worked on bills that make it, working on making Alabama the most military friendly state in the nation. And we're right at the top, about number 2 right now. We're on our way to number 1. And last year I carried one of the bills that creates a compact where that if someone, especially a family member of a military person, is part of, has a license, they can move into the state of Alabama if they're part of that compact without having to go through all that process again. It's recognized. Carried another one of those bills again this year, just making it simpler for military families to to move from one place to the other, to transplant from one state to the other, to come into Alabama, and to have that compact where they can transfer those licenses of different things, whether it be a cosmetologist or a psychologist or whatever the situation might be. School psychology was the one I carried this year. So we worked on that, and I'm very proud to be a part of that, helping our military in any way we possibly can. Another one is our policy committee. I served on that last year. I presented a bill that we got passed to include additional assistant principals in our schools. Many of our schools, especially middle and elementary, did not qualify or have an assistant principal. We picked up several hundred more last year. I'm hoping this year when the budget comes out, we'll pick up a few more because what goes on in our public schools is extremely important, and making sure we give them the support they need is extremely important. So that one we got through. Now, moving on to this year, I also introduced a bill that hopefully will soon go through the Senate, went through the House with flying colors. It's an elder abuse bill. It was brought to me by someone in the realm that deals with that, and making sure that we do all we can to protect our elders, that they're not abused or exploited in any way, and that people are held accountable if that happens.
Is that a financial representative? Is that a financial crimes bill?
Yes, it would. If somebody is convicted, not just accused, but convicted of abusing an elder, they would be disqualified from receiving any kind of financial windfall, such as inheritance, property, that kind of thing, if they're convicted of that.
So it's like the Slayer statute. You can't kill your mother and inherit from her.
Well, that's true. We actually ought to have that part of the bill in place. This takes it on to abuse as well. And so got great reviews on that. Got 103-0 come out of the House. And I feel like it will come out of the Senate well also. Now, going on to our schools, I do serve on the Ed Policy Committee as well. One of the things that we have the privilege to do, Harry, is to return back to our society some of the things that have been removed over the years that were foundational principles of our nation. One of those things was the removal of Christian symbols and Christian ideas from our public sphere. That started back in the 60s. In 71, we had the Lemon versus Kurtzman law that caused 10 Commandments and things to be removed many places. These were foundational principles that really were that helped form the whole ideology of our country. To remove those foundations will be to remove the very thing that propped us up. So I have passed, and I hadn't got it passed yet, have presented and working it through 10 Commandments bill that would put 10 Commandments back in our schools in a couple of strategic places, not in every classroom, but in a strategic location, and then also in the classroom where history is taught, because it does have a very significant historical aspect of our country, because much of our founders' ideas, much of the foundation of who we are were derived from that. As a matter of fact, we have the 10 Commandments all throughout the Supreme Court and, of course, on the front of the building with Moses holding the 10 Commandments. So that's another one of the bills. And plus, I'm also have proposed a school chaplain bill that would help our teachers and administrators, not students, but teachers and administrators, to have a resource, just like we provide for the military and for many other organizations. If they're struggling or have need of someone that would be an impartial person and a confidential person to talk to, that is another one that I have sponsored as well. So those give you a little recap of some of the things I personally have done this year in our Alabama House, and still haven't got all of those through, all of the, because we have to go through House and Senate, but hopefully they're on the way to passage this session.
Go for it, Brandon.
Representative Gidley, on the 10 Commandments bill, are you concerned that, the far left liberal ACLU types will sue and we get into a long protracted court battle as to whether that's violating separation of church and state?
Go ahead.
And do you think, where do you think the courts would fall on that?
Well, I feel like the courts are going to fall in favor of our foundational principles. Here's the other side of that. We don't know what to expect. You never know what to expect when you put something up. And of course, there's been such a fight over the last decades about removing those things from our public sphere. We understand that. So, there's no way to know what might come of that. All the things have been, and the governor's office has worked with us. If you heard the governor's State of the State address, there was a number of things that she listed in there that were priorities for her. One of the things that she mentioned in that State of the State was the returning of the 10 Commandments to our schools. You also might know that in 2018, we passed a constitutional amendment. The state of Alabama did. Now, that hasn't happened, and we haven't seen those things done. So this legislation would put a little teeth in that to hopefully push it forward. But with the Lemon test gone, with the Lemon-Kurtzman ruling that was in 1971, with that being removed, this has opened the door for us to return. And this is what I've said to people. This is not about putting the 10 Commandments in our schools. This is about returning what was removed. And that's the whole idea. The other thing, Brandon, that we tried to do to get on real strong footing is to make sure that we include this in the historical aspect of what the 10 Commandments played in the foundation of our country. It's not about putting religion in. It's not about indoctrination. It's about returning the foundational principles that really help form and guide who we are as a nation. So that's why that this will be placed in the classroom where American history is taught, to make sure we keep it in the context of the fact that it is part of those historical things. It can be placed right there with the Magna Carta, with the Mayflower Compact, with the Constitution, all of those documents, including the 10 Commandments, that were foundational principal documents that help form the thought process for this great nation. So hopefully with all of that in place and all of that very strategically put in place, we're on strong footing, even if that were to happen.
So my grandfather was Dr. Marvin Bryant, and just to give you some idea of his mission work, he's from 89 to 97. He spent 36 months in Kiev, Ukraine, and died there. So I've read the good book a couple of times, and I understand its place as a historical document. Now, I think that when we talk about the ACLU, and if you've ever read their mission statement, the purpose of the ACLU is to defend the Bill of Rights.
That's what they claim.
And then we claim, and we're going to hear from a professor at Alabama here in a little while about what is a liberal democracy and what do we mean by that. And I went to school; it was secular, as it could be. I mean, you couldn't help the people that work there and their moralities, and the fact that I saw most of them at church or at Easter service or something in town all the time, and most everyone were Christians anyway. But it worked for Roy Moore. So, I'm not flippantly saying that. I'm just saying it's an issue that we've kind of,
It's an issue that keeps coming up in Alabama, I think, because the people of Alabama want it to keep coming up. That, the court sort of found against the will of the people of Alabama, certainly, and maybe of this country as a whole, when they pass decisions like Lemon.
Okay, so let's talk about some things coming out of Morgan County. Is this where I went to the Reagan dinner? Was that Morgan County?
You asking me that
No,
question?
I'm asking Brandon.
Okay, okay.
Multiple counties have Reagan dinners.
Okay, well, you and I went to one in particular. I'm just trying to think of where. I'm trying to picture these people.
Yeah,
because I've
Morgan
been
is
there
up there
before.
with Decatur.
Okay,
It's way up north.
So anyway, they've advocated that the legislature repeal the Glock switch ban. I don't know if anybody's actually carrying that bill or whatever, but I thought that was interesting.
And the legislature just passed the Glock switch ban. So
Right. So anyway, let's see what's next. South Alabama state senators filed a bill that would legalize some gaming in the state of Alabama, and then the next day, Brandon. So why don't you tell us what happened to Senator Albritton's gaming bill?
for folks that don't know, gambling or games of chance are forbidden under the Alabama Constitution. So to pass a bill that that would institute gambling requires a constitutional amendment. And under Alabama law, that means the people get to vote on it, but each house has to pass it with a 3/5 majority, which in the case of the Senate is 21. And the leader of the Senate, Garland Gudger, after Greg Albritton introduced that bill, said that they don't have the votes in the Senate. I've talked with Albritton, and he acknowledges they don't currently have 21 votes. So there's no sense in wasting time with this, according to Gudger, given when it goes to the floor of the Senate, there's only 19 or 20 votes. So do you have anything to add on that, Representative Gidley?
Not really. I don't know anything we need to add to that. You've covered that well, and that's pretty much where we are. So, no reason to really go any further with that. That is not going to happen this year, and I think that's a good decision. It did take up a lot of time last year. There was some bills that didn't quite get finished because of that. So, I think it's a good decision on Senator Gudger's part.
So just in, Alabama House passes ban on cell phone use in public schools.
Okay, let me weigh in on that.
Go for it.
There's a lot of people that have different ideas about that. We do know this is one thing. And matter of fact, I was just talking to people yesterday on our first week out, which was supposed to be a legislative week. Last week was a spring break. 2 weeks before that was a legislative week. We were out of session, but we were supposed to get in our district, which I did. I have 4 school districts within my district, or portions of 4 school districts. I met with all 4 of those during the week that I was out because I wanted to use that week for what it was designed to do. And there's a lot of people that have different ideas on that. But here's one thing that I believe is an idea is a central thing. That's the fact that cell phones are a problem. I was just listening to someone last night, and I won't mention who this was, of course, for good reasons, but there was a terrible issue in a school just last week over a cell phone that's going to cost, going to be hurtful. It is distracting. I was listening to someone who was in our Ed Policy Committee during the time of discussion on this, the lady that come in that's supposed to be an expert on the stats of this, that if there is just a ding on a phone, it takes 23 minutes to get your attention span back. And that way, that's just like if a kid has a phone on their body, if it dings, even if they don't answer it, it's going to take them a long time to focus back on what's going on in that classroom. Plus, we already know a lot of things that arise that happen. It could be bullying. It could be sending illicit pictures or whatever that have been terrible things in our school system. So, I feel like the idea of doing this, a matter of fact, there's already some schools that are already doing it without a bill. They're doing it because they see the necessity of it. But also by us passing that, because there's going to be kickback, we know that. even some by parents. How am I going to get a hold of my kid? Whatever. Well, I'm going to tell you, when I was in school, there was no such thing as a cell phone. We had a landline, okay? And my parents knew how to pick up the phone, call the landline if they needed to get a hold of me while I was at school. But one thing that we've done by passing this is giving the schools cover, that if they do get kickback, then they can say, well, this is passed by the legislature, And I think it's, while I know there's a lot of different ideas, I feel like it's going to be a good thing to help our schools, to give them now teeth to say, hey, if you have parents or students, whatever, that come say, look, this is passed by the legislature. We're going to carry this out because it is a major distraction. It's a major problem. It really, I think, takes away from a child's learning experience to have that on their person. Now, I won't go into all the details of the bill. I didn't carry the bill. One of our other people did. But it does have provisions in there that allow for the phone to be accessible if a child needs to get it for an emergency or whatever, It's just the fact that it will be away from them during their learning time during the day, which I just do not see that as a bad thing. So,
okay, well,
I sort of agree with Representative Gidley. I'm from the generation where you didn't have cell phones. It hadn't really been a thing yet. I had a hard time concentrating in class. I draw little pictures, and doodle in my books. There was always something going on in my mind. If I had the entire internet to entertain me, much less being able to talk to your friends and Snapchat and whatnot, I don't know how these children are paying attention to the finer points of ninth grade geometry.
Yeah.
With their cell phone.
Well, you understand too. Now, I can't do this. I text, but it takes me a long time to send a text. Okay, because I have to type it and then I have to back it up and retype it because I hit the wrong letters and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so it takes me a long time to send one. But these kids, they have been so used to it. They can text without even looking, holding the phone down where you can't even see it. The teacher can't see it. Nobody can see it. Or they can text, I don't know how many words a minute wide open without even looking at the phone. And we know that there's no way, as you said, Brandon, there's no way they're able to garner the attention they need to learn. I'm like you. Man, there was some things I barely squeezed by in high school, okay? If I'd have been distracted by a cell phone, I wouldn't even have had enough credits to graduate, no doubt. So
if the cute little redheaded girl in the other class is having a conversation with me, I'm probably paying more attention to that than the finer points of the Code of Hammurabi.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
So I have to give a little pushback here. We have local school boards. These are things for them to take care of. We don't need the overlord from Montgomery telling us what to do with our local schools. And number two, I see this as the government doesn't want anybody with a recording device on campus that they don't control. And I can just tell you, there have been several things that have happened down here that we've tried to get the body camera footage for or the whatever, and because of a couple of rulings and what do we call it, a grand jury secret. And then even after it's cleared by the grand jury, well, since the grand jury didn't convict the officer, it'd really be unfair to show everybody that video of him shooting an unarmed person. I think it's absolutely fair. I think that every time, these people that we've surrendered violence to violate that trust, and we'll get to one of those in a minute. Anyway, it's been my experience that the third-party cameras are invaluable there are a lot of things that go on in the schools.
We're not talking about a courtroom here. We're talking about a school.
That's
and
right.
Again, I know local control and all the kinds of this. The state of Alabama is spending $9.9 billion to educate these kids. And according to most of the results that we've gotten over the last decade, we get some improvement here lately, we're not getting that great a return. So I think the state has a vested interest in having some order in the schools and maybe a little more focus on the academics.
So Brandon, I don't know if y'all thought about this, but if they don't have their cell phones, how are they going to know there are sharks in the water at the beach?
but they're not at the beach; they're at school.
Right.
Anything on that, Representative Gidley?
I'm in agreement. Here's what we got, I think, to remember. We send our children to school to get an education, and we got to do everything we can to make sure we create the greatest atmosphere where they can do that. And I think we've done a great thing in our state to give cover to our school systems where they can actually implement this and not be the total bad guy here. Okay. And create the best atmosphere we can for our children to walk away with an education and not just have played on their phone all day. And it's a challenge. It is. I mean, we live in a different world today. We live in this technological world, so it requires us to make some decisions. I agree. I understand the government overreach thing. I don't want the government telling me what I can do with my cell phone in my house.
Absolutely not.
I don't want that. That's not their business. That's my business. But when we send these kids to school, and as Brandon said, spend $9 billion to educate them, we need to be doing everything we can to make sure we help. And I look at this as a way to help the schools, to help them to be able to implement something and not have to be the total bad guy here, but give them cover so they can implement things that will help our children to walk away with the best learning experience they can have. And so anyhow, that's my take on it there. So.
Okay, so I have a legislative update from, do you know Susie Huffaker, our legislative counsel for the Alabama State Bar? She is she's given us telling us that their bills being considered by the judiciary committees addressing illegal immigration, health insurance, bail bond reform, human cloning prevention, the Senate's accountability court bill, and proposal to raise the age of eligibility to run for judicial office from 70 to 75. If y'all change that, I'm done. These judges they hanging around way too long. As a practitioner, I can tell you, I don't know. I imagine, I don't know if he's still on the bench, but Judge Ray, he's got to be knocking on 75, 76 years old up there in Etowah County. I mean, there are only so many seats, and there are lots of good people who could do this job and do it. I don't know. We had one of our judges, everybody said he acted like he'd been sentenced to the bench, not begged everybody to elect him to it. You know what I mean? He'd just been there so long and was tired of seeing the same people all the time. Really felt like he couldn't get anything done for the community and just turned into a real sour. Anyway, I was really glad when he became our district attorney. So anyway, these are, I hope that you'll leave that where it is, because we don't need any judges knocking on 80 or whatever. And
but I mean, Americans are living longer.
Doesn't mean they're cognitively
longer. And 70 is not a realistic retirement age presently or moving forward. I don't think
it is for somebody that has to keep 80 cases on a docket in their mind because they just gotta, because that's their docket. And I can barely do it. And I'm 51. And I can just promise you, when I'm 70, there's no way Harry's going to be able to do all that. I don't believe it. So anyway, there's some other things in here, but nothing really of note that I wanted to talk to you guys about. So anyway, Clark and Washington County area news. This is the police officer, or I guess he's a deputy sheriff. A deputy with the Walker County Sheriff's Office has agreed to plead guilty to charges related to the arrest of Tony Mitchell, who died after spending 2 weeks naked, wet, and cold, and covered in feces on a cement cell floor. Carl Carpenter, 55, has agreed to plead guilty to 2 felony deprivation of right charges, according to court documents obtained by WTVTM 13 on Tuesday. Carpenter and fellow deputy James Halloway were charged in his death. And the only other one that I thought we might talk about, because Brandon and I have talked about it a couple of times, is where was this again? Hanceville.
Hanceville.
So the grand jury came back and said they said that the police department was did they call it a criminal enterprise?
Yeah, apparently the Hanceville police were using and selling as many drugs as they were taking off the street.
And so what led the ABI to their front door was one of their dispatchers got into the drugs and died in the police station. So anyhow, like to keep up with all
Rebs
the...
has corrupted a whole bunch of our society, including, sadly, apparently, the Hanceville Police Department.
So, Brandon, was this night before last, two days ago at the BJCC, the Alabama?
Yeah, I was there. I think Representative Gidley was there too.
I was there. Yes, I was. I was there in person. Absolutely.
So, tell us a little bit about the program. It's the Trump Victory Dinner, and it was in the BJCC auditorium. It looks like that's a big room.
It was. I would estimate 800, 1,000 people there. Brandon, is that what you would think?
Yeah, every bit of 800. It was, I thought we were going to be in the Sheraton Ballroom. Yeah, there's no way you could have stuck all those folks in the Sheraton Ballroom.
No, exactly. It was a great event. Donald Trump Jr. Is the one who spoke and did a great job. I was impressed that he spoke for about 45 minutes without any notes. If I understood correctly, he had no notes. And but it was really good. We also honored a number of our legislators in Alabama for things that they had done. It'd be possible for me to go through all the list: April Williams, Danny Garrett, Greg Reed, I think Garland Gudger, and even Scott Stadhagen all received an award. Donna Givens, I see a picture of Donna there.
Yeah, she's one of mine.
Yeah, Donna had a great bill. Her Sound of Freedom bill and her baby box bill too. That she presented last year it's just been amazing. If you're familiar with that, allows people to put a baby box usually at a fire station, because there has to be somebody there around the clock, and where somebody can actually take a child and put that child there rather than putting it in somewhere who would not be safe, and that child can be rescued. She does some great work. So it was a great night. I think Don Jr. did a fantastic job. He does one thing about it. He does a great impersonation of his father.
He does.
Yeah, he does. He sounded exactly like him and had mannerisms like him as well. But it was a great event and a good, and something what's good about these events, of course, celebrate where we are in our nation. And I think we do need to celebrate, where we are in a nation. The fact that we have Donald Trump, that I believe really does care about this nation and wants to take it forward. But it's also just a great time to get together and renew friendships and that kind of thing. So I was good. It was a good night, and after a long day in Montgomery, but I thought the event went very well.
Good deal. So we're going to keep talking about this until it happens. For some reason, the Department of Conservation is selling or is going to lease for $500,000, and then once the lease is secured, you can execute the option to buy the whole thing for $8.5 million. And it's 71 acres. I don't know if you've ever been to the Five Rivers Auditorium, if they've ever had an event for you legislators, but man, that place is, it's as nice as anything the state of Alabama owns. And really, and it's right across from Mayor State Park, and it's Five Rivers because of where it's the confluence of the five rivers of the Delta. And, you can just, I told Brandon, I said, man, they spent $8.5 million just on grade and drain before they put a building up, and I think it was it's where they brought bauxite in at one time for the aluminum operation over in Birmingham.
Industrial, unloading, loading, back when we actually used our ports, we're more of an industrial country, as a state. I mean, Alabama Conservation Natural Resources has done a magnificent job turning that into a recreational property and restoring the nature as much as possible. It's sort of sad that we're now going to turn around and develop it. But
okay, Brandon, this is one of yours. Governor announces 2024 economic gains. Alabama's growth continues with $7 billion in new investments. $2 billion of that was in Baldwin County.
Yeah,
and I reckon the rest of it was in Madison. Am I right? Was it in Huntsville, Redstone Arsenal?
They've got projects all over the state. I think they're doing an industrial park in
Gadsden,
Fayette, of all places, and Lee County is booming. Kay Ivey, whatever you can say about her administration from the very beginning has focused on luring or retaining or expanding, employment, especially in the manufacturing and, technology sectors into the state of Alabama. And the legislature has been a very willing partner in this. Do you have anything to add about this, Representative Gidley?
Well, I agree with you 100%. The Jobs Act and many different things. We have seen some good economic growth. Workforce development is a tremendous thing that we have going on in Alabama. The governor just created this workforce development department. Greg Reed's moved out of the Senate, to head that up. And the emphasis has been put on the workforce development is absolutely tremendous. And I think it's going to be one of the greatest drawing tools for economic development that we've seen, because when we ready our students to go into the workforce with, trained already. Now, that doesn't take away from four-year universities. We know the four-year institutions still have definitely their place and students there, but many of our students are not headed that way. So the workforce development initiatives that the governor has put forth, I think, have been great, and economic development has been good. Like the Jobs Act and many different things. I think Alabama is poised for good growth if we continue on the trajectory that we've been on. And I think in that respect, the Governor Ivey's done a very good job.
So when I came to Gadsden in 2002 or 3, I can't remember when I got there, but Mayor Means was still the mayor, and he and I went out to the U.S. Steel plant, and they were ripping the furnaces out of the ground and putting them on flatbed trucks and sending them to China. And I guess Goodyear is down to how many lines now? I mean, it's not.
Oh, no, nothing. Goodyear's gone.
They're gone.
Goodyear's been gone for 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
They scaled back to. They first started scaling back, doing buyouts for employees with X number of years. Scaled back to about 400 and something. They had about 11 or maybe 1,400. They got down to about 400 and something, and then they bought out those as well. So Goodyear is no longer in Gadsden at all. Now, there has been an organization that's bought that, if I am understanding correctly, and I don't have all the inside scoop on this by any means. A company called Phoenix has bought that. We also have some people that are looking at that as a possibility of some support businesses for some of the industries in the state of Alabama. So our hope is that they will develop that and bring in some support companies that will locate there. That has not happened yet, or at least to my knowledge, it hasn't happened yet. I'll leave that little door open.
Well, one of the things I worked on that nobody paid me for and nobody asked me to do was have that declared a Brownsfield site so that it would qualify for cleanup money. I don't know if you know what comes out of the other end when they're making, but that big pile of slag out there is full of mercury and all kinds of bad stuff that's in coal, byproduct.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Okay, so let's keep on clipping here. So, talk about so it's the bicentennial of the Marquis de Lafayette's tour of the United States, and I don't know if y'all know who he is, but he came through Purdue Hill or Claiborne, and of course the town is gone now, but it was an important. It's right there. If you're coming up 84 from Mobile, when you cross over the river, the Alabama River right there, that's Claiborne and Purdue Hill. So anyway, the Marquis de Lafayette was 19 years old when he showed up in Virginia with a bunch of Hessian mercenaries and some gunpowder, and he befriended George Washington, became one of his generals, was the hero of the Battle of Yorktown. And 50 years later, he was one of the only guys that was left alive. And so he came through the United States and did a anniversary tour. And that's a picture of him. And that's him landing in New York City. And he was received as the Queen. And he arrived here on April 3rd, the 4th and 6th. You can see he went to Selma and came through Claiborne. And then was arrived in Mobile on April 7th, and then got on a steamboat at Mobile Point and went to New Orleans.
There's actually a tavern was a tavern that's a about 3 blocks from the Alabama Gazette headquarters where Lafayette stayed, stayed maybe there overnight when he was coming through Alabama in Montgomery.
So
and they have a historical marker there all the way since. I mean, they named Lafayette in Chambers County, Fayette in Fayette County, and the whole county Fayette, because he came and he so impressed the people of Alabama that somebody from the Revolution was still there remembering him when he did his tour. Of course, Alabama wasn't really even a front in the Revolutionary War because it was so out there other than Mobile, away from civilization at that point. So when he came through 50 years later, they were much more historical people than we were. It was just a huge event that someone that they read about it, growing up, was a real person and really came to visit them.
So, Brandon, this is right up your history geek alley. So when he leaves here after the Revolution, he goes back to France, and his pen pal is Thomas Jefferson. And Jefferson helps him write the document that leads to the French Revolution.
Lafayette had a lot to do with the French Revolution, and he tried to guide France to follow the model of the American Revolution and go to more of a Republican style of government. But Robespierre and those French radicals took over the revolution and purged out people like Lafayette, who were seen as too moderate. I mean, if Napoleon hadn't have taken that thing over and turned it into a dictatorship, Lafayette probably gets executed along with a lot of his peers from the French nobility, in the Reign of Terror. But I mean, basically, Napoleon saves Lafayette's life, and Lafayette, who was born a very rich person, had fallen on really hard times by the time was in debt of his tour of the U.S. They invited him over here, and they loved on him so much in Alabama and the rest of the country that he was able to restore his finances to a pretty good shape when he returned to France.
Well, apparently celebrity has its privileges, right? I mean, big time war hero. I guess you could become.
I mean, we pay celebrity out the wazoo for very little. Lafayette was a true war hero. He and his volunteer friends were influential in the French government, making the decision to intervene in the war on the side of the U.S. You could make a very good argument that without Lafayette and the French assistance, we lose that war, and there's no telling what history is like, when the Loyalists do their crackdown on, the Liberty guys that we see as the founders of this country.
Let's talk about all these people that helped us throughout the years to keep our power. I was shocked. So anyway, if you get on down the list here, did you have any idea?
There's 180 countries on this list.
I know, but I had no idea that Israel was charging us 30%.
If you're not on this list.
Yeah, but Israel charging us 30%. So explain to me how this works. We give Israel money to buy a fighter jet. They buy the fighter jet from us, and then we got to pay a 30% tariff on the money that we already gave them. I don't understand it. Anyway, I thought it was. I don't know, man. It's like
I don't know
playing with hand grenades.
To work.
It's playing with hand grenades.
This is a very risky thing. But again, those of us remember. We're all old enough to remember when you went to a restaurant in Alabama and ordered shrimp, where the shrimp came from Alabama. Most of the time, now they come from the pond in Vietnam or Chile or something, and these countries have not given a fair deal to us in quite a long time. They protect their industries, and they dump product, like kitchen cabinets or furniture or whatever. I mean, I remember they used to make furniture. There was a jeans factory, believe this or not, in my hometown.
Yeah,
I mean,
Bay
a
Minette
lot of people I knew, and they made jeans.
Yeah, Bay Minette had Manor slacks, and people were going in Manhattan and buying 3-piece suits, and people in Bay Minette are walking around in the same 3-piece suits they bought for $12 as opposed to $200 in New York. So yeah, and there are a lot of people. A lot of women in Bay Minette worked as seamstresses at Manor Slacks. They had 60 employees, and I'll tell you this because I had to read some things about bond issues, but those were I want to say industrial bonds that brought Manor Slacks to Bay Minette, and that was in the 1960s, I guess.
But that jeans plant in Leeds, Alabama, today, and I'm not making this up, is a haunted house, because when those textile jobs left, there was nobody, there was nothing to put in there. So I mean, ultimately, it gets bought for pennies on the dollar, and a haunted house that's there once a year is in the old jeans plant. They call it Etowah, and it attracts a bunch of people for Halloween, and it sits vacant. And I remember women who worked at the jeans plant and made good money for the times. I mean, I Representative Gidley, I mean, up in, Gadsden, I think you can say the same thing. I mean, I remember Avondale Mills in Bell City for 100 years.
Yeah, I saw back in the 90s, when the NAFTA Act went in, textile they shut down almost overnight. The town just above me here, 115-year-old cotton mill that had been the staple employer for that entire community was gone with this just in no time. And all those jobs went south. They went to Central America. A lot of them went to Honduras, with other places. As a matter of fact, I've been in Honduras. I've seen some of those textile mills there, Honduras, where people were working at that time. It's been a few years since I've been there, for $162 a month, making the things that we had made in America. So we've got to look at bringing those jobs back. I think I heard you mention tariffs. I am not an economist. I'm not going to put myself as an expert on the economic things and whatever. I'm not. I've never worked in that realm, and I'm not going to say I'm an expert in that realm. But I do know we have to do something to put Alabama and America on a level playing field. And I trust that's what Donald Trump is working to do, is put us on a level playing field. If somebody wants to charge us 25% tariff, I don't think there's anything wrong with us charging them 25% tariff. It's probably going to hurt. It's probably going to cause some things. We know the stock market's going a little wobbly because of that. But I feel like that I have the trust that these things are going to level out, and we're going to see some countries come to the table, and it's going to help, because but just a moment ago, Harry, we're talking about the Goodyear plant, steel plant. We talked about steel mills. All these things are gone, and something has got to bring these things back to America. So if this is going to help do that, I hope that it will. I just got a little battery sign on my phone, so I hope it holds out till we get done.
So the Dow Jones has tumbled over 2,100 points as the market sell-off intensifies amid trade war fears.
Yeah,
I think that's enough to say about that. So I thought this was funny. This is the Babylon Bee. This is a spoof site. And this is kind of a double entendre. Trump assures pain from tariffs should settle down by his third term. And then man worried about tariffs, glad he just bought new underwear, so he doesn't need to worry about it for another 15 years. And that's instructive because this just came out. Wide-reaching tariffs on all products imported to the U.S. are now in effect, raising concerns about potential consumer reaction, such as panic buying, like at this Costco. So, yeah, you can expect no toilet paper and other idiotic things to happen. Orrin Cass, who was Mitt Romney's policy advisor, says it's a catastrophe that young men earn the same as 50 years ago, adjusted for inflation. And while he was Mitt Romney's number 2, he also believes that this is the way to bring our economy back. So you're not alone out there. There are a lot of people that think this is the right thing to do. So I will just say that I think all of this stuff is just so ridiculous, and we were going to listen to this for a minute, but maybe let's do it real quick. Because nothing is as instructive as hearing someone say it for themselves. And this is the Education Committee. Oh, I'm sorry, Senate Health Committee.
Right.
For 3 decades now, I've worked closely with students, witnessing firsthand the challenges they face, particularly with the rise of anti-Semitism on college campuses. My colleagues and I are guided every day by the teachings of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Schneerson of sacred memory. The Rebbe, widely recognized as the most influential rabbi in modern times, championed the values of education, moral responsibility, and a deep appreciation for America as a land of unprecedented religious freedom. In recognition of his exemplary benevolence, ethics, leadership, and scholarship, and selfless commitment to education, Congress unanimously awarded the Rebbe the Congressional Gold Medal in 1994, and every U.S. president since 1978 has declared his birthday each year as Education and Sharing Day USA. His guiding principle was that every individual, regardless of status, has the ability and responsibility to make the world a better place through acts of kindness and moral leadership. The concept is one of the most famous in the Jewish faith. L'taken olam b'malchut shin daled yud, to perfect the world under the sovereignty of the Almighty God. Many refer to it merely as tikkun olam, but this is the original mandate. This brings me to the pressing issue of today's hearing. Anti-Semitism is not just an age-old prejudice. It is a contemporary crisis manifesting on campuses across the nation. It is not enough for individuals or institutions to merely claim they are not anti-Semitic. As my father once taught me, it is not enough for people, especially public figures, to be neutral or not be anti-Semitic. One must be anti-Semitic. We must...
Woo! I mean...
I do think that the Jewish children, that are students that are in college, shouldn't be scared to death because you've got a whole bunch of, anti-Jewish, the protests they've had to endure on some of these campuses are over the top. Everybody has a right to protest. You can't take over the entire campus for days and weeks on end, threatening to eradicate an entire people and there not be pushback. Some of these foreign students that were here on student visas, like that Khalil cat in Colombia that, Rubio took, his visa away from, I applaud the government. Hey, if you're here on a student visa, be a student. And, it doesn't mean you lose your free speech rights, but you can't shut the whole campus down and create a climate of fear. I'd feel the same way if we were, threatening to attack Muslim kids on the campus.
Okay, but is protesting the destruction of Gaza is not the same thing as being an anti-Semite, and it's the same kind of bullcrap that we got sold by the left that, we're being told something, it's equated to, Brandon. Just because because you don't want your bombs going to kill everybody in Gaza, you must be an anti-Semite. And I think that's a bridge way too far. But there's a difference
between a 2-hour protest and me importing, several hundred of my thuggy friends to seize control of the campus. Okay, that's not a protest. That's not free speech.
That's a criminal act.
That's criminal trespassing and shutting down an education institution for an extended period of time.
I believe I have a bumper sticker.
In order to threaten people. That's bullying.
So, Brandon, the last time I heard that, this was on my granddaddy's bumper. These outside agitators come down. Anyway, it's a college campus. People are going to protest when there's something major going on.
They can't protest, but they can't shut the campus down and threaten all the Jewish kids because they're protesting.
And so the Senate Health Committee should hold a hearing on it. I'm just saying that we got lots of problems. I'm not so sure that anti-Semitism is the problem that we think it is. And just because you're not in favor of these special people having their own state and having their own intelligence service and having their own F-16s and everything else, you're an anti-Semite.
And Israel has been an ally of this country for 70 years. And you've got a right to protest against them if you don't like them or you don't like them getting F-16s and F-15s. But again, it's an American campus that was, in Columbia, that was shut down basically for most of a semester because outside agitators brought in people from outside of the campus and you couldn't get to class. I mean, literally, they were how can you have class if you can't get there because they've blocked all the, the entrances and exits of all the buildings on a pedestrian campus?
Okay, well, the Black Lives Matter did the same thing 4 years ago, and nobody said diddly.
Black Lives Matter down for it. I don't believe you can shut the entire campus down, for days and weeks at a time. That's not free speech. That is practically an insurgency.
Okay.
And if it was white Christians doing it, wanting whatever, and they use those same tactics, I'm for locking them up and having them physically removed from the place too.
Mm. Yeah, and I too, I have to, Brown, I have to agree with you. I think it was totally abhorrent that, we saw this college and several, not only that one, but several that were unable to even carry on class. And I think that was the whole purpose, was to disrupt more than it was to demonstrate. And I think it's also a result of years of indoctrination about Israel and other things that this whole thing brought it to a head. I agree that, we have a right to free speech. We have a right to protest. I have a right to stand on the street corner and hold up a sign and say, I don't like something. I don't have a right to inflict that on someone else where it either brings them harm or restricts them from their ability to go about their business. I don't know. Anyhow, I think you've covered it well, though, Brandon. I think there's some deep-rooted things there and I agree. If somebody comes here, they got a visa to come to the United States and go to school, and they want to disrupt our process. I think a ticket back home would probably be in order.
So on that same lines, the House Judiciary Committee holds a hearing on the Biden FBI, where, of course, the Biden FBI were looking for people like weirdos like Brandon that go to the Catholic Church and following them around, So, it just depends, like, who's in charge, right? But I don't like my government doing any of this stuff ever, especially the 36,000 thugs with an FBI badge.
It was interesting because, for those not in the Catholic Church, you don't quite understand the politics of it. Biden is Catholic.
Right.
I'm Catholic. Within the Catholic Church, there are different factions, still the same church. We don't split up like some of the Protestant sects do. We have different factions. Biden represented that liberal Vatican II, loosey-goosey. I'm more of a conservative, but there's different strains of conservatives within the church. There's a traditional Catholics that want to go back to the pre-Vatican II, Latin Mass. They wear the little head, coverings in church for the women. They have like 7 and 8 kids per, house. They're a minority within the deal, but they're diametrically opposed to that liberal faction where I'm sort of more moderate in the middle. Those two factions don't get along, and you had a president in Biden who represented one faction who unleashed the FBI on the other faction within the faith that he disagreed with. I mean, I don't, by any reading of the Constitution, that's bizarre. That'd be like liberal Baptists going against conservative Baptists, and getting the FBI involved in it.
It's like Shias and Muslims and Sunnis, huh? It's just crazy.
Well, no, it's not. They're actually different religions under the Muslim faith, but
so
I think my liberal Baptist versus the Southern conservative, within the Southern Baptists, they have the two different factions that go at it.
The ones that go to the liquor store and the ones that ask you to go to the liquor store for them.
I did not say that.
Okay. So look, we got to get to this. All 4 of these people are former FBI agents. They're being interviewed, and we're going to listen to the guy who's now teaching at the University of Alabama.
My goal is to briefly share my understanding of the FBI's important mission in a way that I hope is free from partisanship. I had the good fortune of serving my country as an FBI agent in a variety of settings. In a small office where I worked whatever criminal case that walked through the door, from bank robberies to crimes against children. At Washington Field Office on violations of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. And finally at FBI headquarters where I focused on national security policy. Now, as a professor, I draw on these experiences in teaching and research related to legal and philosophical issues in policing. But I'm not interested in the ivory tower today. One of the academic questions in my work is directly related to this committee's work. Is the FBI a liberal or illiberal institution? By liberal, I'm not referring to politics or whether you're a liberal or conservative member of Congress. I instead mean the philosophical tradition with which I assume everyone in this room agrees. The philosophical tradition going back to John Locke, on which this country was founded. At its core, the political morality of liberalism tells us that all persons are free and equal and should be governed by the state in accordance with the rule of law. What is the alternative? Illiberal regimes governed not by the rule of law, but by arbitrary power and the official whim of state agents who are above the law. The FBI can and should be an agency that promotes the rule of law. However, I want to raise 3 concerns about the current state of affairs that could lead to the erosion of the rule of law. First, lack of predication. Predication is the basis of an investigation, the information or allegation that justifies a case. While most FBI investigations require predication,
and we could listen to all this, but you understand the implication. Remember who was the guy in the KGB that said, "Show me the man and I'll show you the crime"? Predication is Brandon Mosley is an unemployed guy that used to run the mail, and now he's driving around town in a Ferrari, and he's got this hot model wife with, he's got all this inexplicable wealth. That might be predication. They may get a tip from a tax agency that brings you to the attention of the FBI. You can think of all kinds of ways. But just because you peed off Senator Tuberville and he picks up the phone and Trump calls Patel and they get, that's not how any of this is supposed to work, which is exactly what they're saying happened under Biden.
It was working with the Biden administration. Going back to that conservative Catholic deal, or the school board, the mom that talks too much at the school board, these people were being targeted by the FBI, not because they were accused of doing anything wrong, but because their ideology was opposed to the president of the United States ideology. So the FBI was creating a dossier on them, trying to find something, anything at all that would stick that they were doing wrong, that you could actually prosecute them. There, I kind of want to know, where is the dossier on those conservative, Latin-speaking Catholics, or those school board moms that didn't want transgenderism taught in their school, or didn't like Common Core or whatever. Where are those dossiers, and why can't, who has control of that? And I mean,
Katie
I
Britt.
find all this problematic.
Next time you talk to Katie Britt, tell her you want her to go down to the FBI and you want to see the dossiers on all these Catholics and what was the reason for it. And then let's go use the SWAT team to track down these FBI agents like they did the J6ers. I think that would be just desserts. Okay, so another thing that grinds my gears. I don't guess y'all ever watched that TV show. Just like the TSA, just like me having to take my daggum shoes off when I go to the airport and let them scan my butt crack. Now we have to have a star ID because Brandon, please explain. And Representative, I'm going to tell you, I go in the courthouses all over the place, and you know something I've noticed? None of the crap that they put up during COVID has been removed. Mm-hmm. There's plexiglass everywhere. It doesn't feel like the public's building to me. And even and I can tell you, I used to walk in and out of the legislature all the time. There's some fat dude in a chair wave me through the damn metal detector. And now, brother, there's 17 state troopers down there, and they're actually going through my stuff. And I'm just like... Anyway, but yeah, more overlord stuff. The star ID. If you want to get on a plane after May 7th, you better have one. Or
I had to get my driver's license renewed, and I'm like, okay, it says I need to have star ID, and they ask for like 10 different documents. And if for some reason Brandon wants to get on an airplane, I haven't flown in years, I now need to go get this star ID or a passport. It's like, why not just have the passport? I mean, let's go ahead and just have internal travel papers.
Papers, please. Papers, please. You know, we've got so many people in this country. We can't allow anybody on an airplane without checking them for a bomb in their shoe. This is
the
stupid.
State of Alabama is good with my driver's license and run it through a scanner to vote, but that's not good enough to get on a Southwest Airlines plane. I don't get it.
I can buy a beer with it. But I can't. It's not good enough to get on an airplane. What's going on, Mark?
I don't know. I don't understand the star ID. I don't know what it's all about. I just know you got to have it. I mean, I've had a passport for years. I've traveled halfway around the world on several occasions. And the passports, you scan that passport and you're good to go. I really don't know what the star ID is all about. I just know you got to have one. I was going to get one. They had a person at the State House here a month or two ago doing that. And I didn't bring enough documents, so I'm going to go to the real place to get mine done.
See there?
Yeah.
You're just like me. I've been up there 3 times. Yeah. I never have. They need my birth certificate that has my baby footprints on it, right?
Yeah. I really don't understand what it's all about.
So anyway, the Porch Creek Indians have bought a resort in Aruba that I'm going to ask them to comp me a week at. So I definitely need my star ID and my passport. Huh?
Yeah.
So
better get it.
So did everybody see the boat rage? So this guy is now famous. He's got over 1 million views. This happened just east of us here. I think it's Santa Rosa County. No, this is Tampa Bay. So Captain Brock Horner with Tarpon Coast Fishing likes to attack kids who are out trying to enjoy fishing. Anyway, pulled up on this guy, cussed him out, got on his boat, tried to whip him, and the video has gone viral. So now everybody knows this boat captain, and things didn't go his way. And he's also screaming that he's a combat veteran and how dare you. Well, it turns out none of that stuff's true either. Something I thought that you guys might enjoy right off the coast of Destin and Orange Beach here. So do y'all know what right whales are? So
yes.
So they call them the right whale because that's the right one to kill to get the oil out of it.
There's very few of them left.
Yep. So we do still have them in the Gulf of Mexico here. And then I thought I would just spotlight some local folks doing good things. Huntsville Renovation is sponsoring casino night for the Robertsdale High School Golden Bears band. And my friend and cousin Robert McMillan at RMC Guns has a special AR receiver laser etch with POTUS 47. What do y'all think about that? He's a FFL dealer. John Sledge is going to be speaking at the Maritime History in Residence about the sister cities across the Gulf, Mobile and Havana. And my family had a sawmill here, and they also had a timber warehouse in Havana until the Revolution. So hopefully we will reclaim that one day.
Good luck on that.
When the regime, well, we get the State Department working on that now. But I'm aware that we have a sister city in Havana, and my grandparents used to go there all the time in the 50s. You know, it was like going to Vegas or Atlantic City, except everything was dirt cheap. But you know, you would get the potential to be murdered in the back streets of Havana was a lot higher back in the day, I think. So, Brandon, tell us about, are your brackets looking good? Is Auburn going to pull it out? What's going on here?
I mean, Auburn's only been to the Final Four once in its history before this, and we are back again. If we can win a game, we'll go to the national championship game for the first time in Auburn history.
So I got some more Auburn news. Did you see this? It's good to be the Auburn head coach. Tigers head coach Bruce Pearl bought a $6.3 million home on Lake Martin. That's pretty nice right there. Is that Screechy's old house?
He's the winningest coach in Auburn basketball history, and he had a bunch of games at Tennessee before he came here.
So
success pays.
So the Baldwin County, it looks like Gulf Shores and the Eastern Shore MPO and the Baldwin County Commission and everybody are in. They're going to do a big bicycle path. You know, we used to have a rail that went from Bay Minette to Foley that hauled potatoes, essentially, and they abandoned that rail. And I think one of our public utilities, electric utilities, owns the right-of-way. So anyway, you might be able to park your bike or your car in Bay Minette and ride your bike all the way to Gulf Shores one day. And just in time for spring break, and you know, I always like to say ALDOT is the people that everybody's watching when they do like the something embarrassing off the high dive. You know what I mean? It's always right out in public. And so the latest iteration is that we've dug up almost 2/3 of the road going in and out of Gulf Shores just in time for spring break. I was down there for a deposition the other day, and I sat at the base of the bridge through like 5 cycles of the red light signal. So hopefully we'll get all those improvements done in time for summer. So Representative Gidley, you get the last word, man. Tell us what we need to be looking forward to. And just one more quick question. Tell me about the Etowah County Republican Party. How strong are you? How many members you got, and all that kind of stuff?
Well, thank you very much. And just to back up for a second, I do think we are looking at good things in our Alabama state legislature. We have some great people. You know, I've told people one of the greatest joys that I've had in serving in the Alabama House of Courts, number one, is to serve the 46 to 47,000 people in Etowah and Calhoun County. That's always at the top of the list. But also to encounter and become friends with some of the best people I've ever known. We have great people that serve in the Alabama House. You got your challenges. That's with life. But we have some good folks and they're working on some good stuff. But as far as the Etowah County Republican Party, we have a tremendous party. Just elected a new chairman of that party, Misty Sosby Ledbetter. Very involved. She's involved in our campaign process in the county, and she's on that committee and different things. We have a real strong party, very good party. We have a dinner. You mentioned a moment ago about a Reagan dinner, but we do a annual banquet and with the Alabama Republican Party. and just a tremendous thing. We have great speakers in. We've had, AG, we've had several people come in to speak for that. And so we have a very strong party, very good party, very active party. We are active in the community. We are supporting our youth. We give away scholarships each year to a number of youth in the Etowah County area, and I do a lot of good things. So several of them, I didn't go to First Friday last night. I was tired after a long week and a late night on Thursday night. So I didn't go to First Friday last night, but we did have kickoff. We do have a place at First Friday every month where we have the public party presence there to meet people. So we encourage everybody to come up and be with us, join us. And we do a monthly breakfast. Representative Mac Butler is in charge of that. That monthly breakfast is at the Western Sizzling down on Rainbow Drive, or off Rainbow Drive on 77. And we'll have a lot of people that come in to speak, especially now with the campaign season starting. We'll have a lot of candidates and whatever that will come and join us for that breakfast on the third Saturday of each month. So very strong party, great people, and a great county to work and live in, Etowah, and of course Calhoun County as well.
Got one more question for you. Is Butch White still alive?
Not familiar with Butch. I don't know.
Glencoe.
I can't answer that question.
Anyway, if you know, so you know where the raceway is on what road is that runs into 77 there. Anyway, he had the jet pep there, and he was one of my county commissioners. Now he did love smoking them cigarettes, so if he's gone, that doesn't surprise me. But
well,
anyway.
I'm not familiar with him, so he must not be around. Whether he's still alive, I don't know. But I obviously not involved in the party because I'm not familiar with him. So,
all right, Brandon, last stab.
One thing that we're kind of watching is there's 4 different bills. I think Melson's got one, Senator Melson, Senator Smitherman, Representative Andy Witt, and I believe there's another one out of the senator from Trussville, regulating this hemp-derived synthetic cannabinoids. Representative Gidley, do you think that is going, to either regulate or ban or somehow set up some sort of guardrails for this use of those synthetic cannabinoids? Do you know how that, do you expect any of those bills to pass?
I have no idea. I've only heard about those a little bit. I am not super familiar with that. I've only heard a bit about those bills. There is some issues with that. One of the things I think that Andy Whitt has worked on is some of the over-the-counter things that are sold in our quick shops that young people have the opportunity to get a hold of. Now, I'm not smart enough to pull up all the names of those things, but there's some of those things that are not regulated that our children can get a hold of that are sold over the counter in our quick shops. And I think that's one of the primary things that Andy Whitt is working on. And I've heard a little bit about that in the House. Now, I'm not familiar with the things going on in the Senate and what they're doing there. Haven't received anything yet, but I am familiar somewhat with that Andy's doing. And that, again, I can't call all the names and all the different drugs that are in that, but it's a pretty dangerous thing that is, our kids have and Andy's working on some way to regulate that.
All right. Well, hey, Representative, we really appreciate your time, and I hope you go catch a big fish or do something fun this afternoon.
I'm fixing to take my lovely wife to dinner and then finish getting ready for church tomorrow. So,
all right. Well, hopefully we'll have this up for church time. So,
all right, good deal.
You can spread the word for us, Brandon. Thank you again. And you look like you're. Are you still in Missouri?
No, I am actually in Atmore. We have a Knights of Columbus convention. I'm here representing the Shelby County, part of St. Clair County, Knights of Columbus, at our state convention. We had our business meeting today, and we have our banquet tonight.
Any FBI agents in the parking lot following you?
There are a few Knights, that are in the FBI.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you for your time, gentlemen, and I will see y'all next time.
Thank you.